Moonbeams up, and we're going to find out about their experience. And I asked everyone who took part, just to, it's better than me kind of go, oh, what's it all about, and who are you, and all this kind of stuff, to kind of like find something, an image that inspires or inspired them. So do you want to tell us about your image, Janette, and why you chose that image, and how is this the inspiration for your...
Well, I like images that actually you can't quite tell what's going on. It's obviously a hand. Is it something that's being made? Is it the mixture of the artist actually there, or is it the final product? I mean, it is actually an art piece. It's a photograph in itself. But for our project, it was about children as artists. And so for me, that image shows that interaction. Now, what you can't see there is the artist that's involved as well as the child as the artist, because we worked with a filmmaker, Hamid Jagat Khan, and she'd done projections at that point on that piece of work. And then we worked with another artist, John the Flying Potter. So he was doing the ceramic work, I was doing the photography, and then we had the child who was creating the art piece in itself.
So in what way does this image represent your approach to it, do you think?
It's the way that you have the child as an artist, but also that relationship working with another artist as well. And then from that, you get beautiful products.
So do you want to tell us about your Moonbeams project then, and what, and when you were invited, what did you want to do with your plot?
We actually had two plots. So, can I talk about the other plot as well? Because they're kind of connected. Is that all right?
Yeah.
There was the exhibition was called Language of Photography, where we had about 6 or 7 different photographers who'd been working in nursery settings around Birmingham and working to develop photography and film. So that first exhibition, again, was that mixture. Do you show the work of the children, their photography, or are you actually showing the work of the artist working in those settings? So that was quite an interesting mix, and working out how you put that together. And Sarah Jenkinson-Evans worked on that project. And that was actually part of the bigger project called Moonbeams 3. I don't know if people have had a chance to sort of wander around the Max space, and in some of the bigger spaces, but also some of the hidden spaces. And the
why did you want to put children's art into a public arena?
Because it never gets shown.
Okay. Right, now we're getting to it. So
it gets taken home. Sometimes it gets put on the fridge until it all gets covered.
But why should we look at children's art? What's so interesting about children's art?
Because they're not valued in terms of what they create as makers, as people that actually investigate art, that experiment, that make those choices. And their work is sort of seen as a development process as part of their learning, which it is. But actually the thinking and the development and how they then really take absolute care in making those conscious decisions in terms of how they construct it, how they decide the finished project. I don't think we view it in the same way that we might view a piece of adult work or young people's work.
So what were the in terms of using that space then, you kind of said that there's space for it. What were the challenges for you in terms of presenting children's art that isn't, because I've been invited into schools and the work gets put on the wall and all this kind of stuff, and you try and do as interesting things as you can in schools, whereas this is kind of different. So what was the challenges for you, and how were you approaching the space?
Because we already had lots of work already around the MAC, we wanted to do something that was a little bit different, a little bit special, actually entered into the approach of the allotment plot. So we started off with our bare shelves, and I have to admit, when those bare shelves went up and we only had one pot, one piece of ceramic on there, I thought, oh, people are going to come along, they're going to see the empty shelves, they'll think that, we just was it a piece of conceptual art and that was it?
Well, before that, I remember the one screen and then the two screens and the third screen, and I didn't quite get that. But I actually quite liked just seeing this one empty screen and then suddenly another screen. But I remember that right from the... Was that a conscious thing that you were doing curatorially to leak a project out, or was it just that's how it went?
Well, the screens was definitely the building up. For the pots, we did want it to be part of when the families were coming and the nurseries were coming, that they could, as part of the event we were doing, select which piece they then put on the shelf. So, yes, it was curated and with Craig and Sarah and myself, so I was thinking about what would work. It was actually even stepping back and saying part of those workshops that the families and the people who were there and the young children were the curators. And that can be a little bit scary. We could have said, well, what we'll do, we're going to have lots of different workshops on and we'll keep it all safe and we'll make it all nice and tidy it up a little bit, you know, and wash it down. And then we will pick the nicest, best, most interesting, weirdest, whatever, and then put those on the shelves. And we could have done that and it would have worked, I guess. But we wanted that project where it was building up, where people would come back and seeing it change, where the families would bring their friends. So, yeah, it's them being curators, but also having something different to see. And it is quite hard to relinquish that idea of, you know, selecting and choosing and really opening that up.
But what was the difference to you between, you know, what you achieved? And I really enjoyed... I wasn't expecting to enjoy the Moonbeams thing, I'm being honest. I can't put on...
That's okay.
I'm not sure what's going to happen here. But I really did. It became one of the plots that I enjoyed, because you were taking you were doing things that were quite risky, I thought, to some extent.
Yes, and it is quite hard to step back, I think. And I must admit, I still go past it with a little sponge occasionally and want to sort of, you know, do things. And I'm in and out of the shed tidying it up. But I think you do have to let go, and apart from something gets broken or damaged, but actually not to see it as one pot, but to see it as the growing piece. And it's the mixture. We have got some of the artist pieces on there. We've got some collaborative pieces, and we've got some individual pieces as well. And I really like the way that actually it is building up now, and you can see it as the whole piece with all the shelves and all the objects on. And what I hadn't thought about was that they're drying out, because they're not fired. They're put straight on, and they're selected by the really young children. Actually, I mean, some of them are, you know, can hardly walk, but they crawl over and lick their pieces and put them on the shelf. But as they're drying out, the colours are changing as well. So it's worked out slightly different than I don't know, than we thought, but that's good.
In terms of value, then, what's been the value for the Moonbeams project, the organisation, to have a public space in somewhere like Mac?
Well, we have loved having that allotment spot, and that's different than the other walls, where, you know, they have been very carefully, if you like, selected and placed. This is a way that we can take that step further with the children, as not only being artists but being curators themselves, in partnership very often with the adult that they come with, you know, the mum, the dad, the teacher, the friend, the babysitter, and that they can actually have that opportunity to curate. So we've taken it one step further, I think, than Moonbeams 3 curating it. You know, we have sort of passed the baton on.
So is it following that thing of, you know, the ripple thing of kind of like it's come from there and then it's coming to your hands and then you've let that ripple out further?
Absolutely, and there are a few projects where children have been curators, but not many. They're usually young people as curators, as opposed to very young children. But they can curate, they can select. They're quite critical, and they're very honest.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Janette.
I have a present that isn't here.